Are your best employees happy at work, or are they secretly exploring another job? Well, according to research from Gallup, 52% of voluntarily exiting employees said that their manager organization could have done something to prevent them from leaving if they had only checked in. So in this video, I'm going to explain how to have a stay conversation. I'm going to explain what it is, when to have them, and I'm going to walk you through the 4 steps to have an effective one, giving you scripts, giving you questions, and even showing you how to respond if somebody brings up the topic of salary or compensation. So let's make sure those best people on your team are still with you 1 year from now. Hi, I'm Chris Littlefield. I'm the founder of Beyond Thank You. I'm a regular contributor to Harvard BizView and Forbes. I spent over 15 years helping leaders at top companies around the world attract, engage, and retain their best people. Let's jump in. One mistake that many leaders make, and this is a mistake that you're obviously not committed to making because you're watching this video right now, is they make the mistake of assuming that because an employee is showing up, because they're doing great work, because they're contributing to your team, that they're satisfied and happy in their job, when many times that's not the case, especially for your top performers. Because for your top performers, they're going to do great work regardless of what's going on for them, but that doesn't mean they're not exploring other options. And that's why it's so important that we're checking in with them on a regular basis so you don't get blindsided 2 months from now when they give their notice because they're taking another job. Most leaders are familiar with the concept of an exit interview, when an employee gives their notice and then somebody from HR interviews them about why they're leaving and if anything could have been done to prevent it. But it's already too late. They're already leaving and they're not going to turn around their experience in that conversation. And rarely are people honest in these conversations because they don't want to burn bridges as they're walking out the door. Now, a stay conversation is a preventative measure between you, the manager, and the people on your team that you want to make sure are having the kind of experience that would make them want to stick around and stay. Now, having spent over 15 years training leaders to have stay conversations and keep dialogue open with their people, I know that many leaders are hesitant to ask their employees how they're doing and about their experience, because what if they bring up something that you can't address, like they want to increase the salary, they want to change a position or a promotion, and you don't have the ability to give it to them. And my response is always, isn't it better to understand what they want or what's going on for them, opposed to just ignoring it and then having them walk out the door? Plus, when we ask them and authentically listen to what matters most to them, oftentimes we can come up with creative solutions together. And plus, many people are scared to ask because they think that everything the person's going to say is that they're going to have a horrible experience, when in many cases they're having a positive experience. Now, conversation is going to look like a typical one-on-one. It may go for 45 minutes to an hour, and the major difference is instead of talking about their performance and what they're going to work on and how they can improve, you're just going to be asking about their experience at work. So how often should you have stay conversations, and when should you schedule them? Well, a good practice is to have them at least twice a year, if not once per quarter. And then when it comes to scheduling them, you can just put them on the calendar, but there's also some interesting research that was done by Gartner about key moments when employees' job satisfaction tends to go down and their job search activity tends to go up. For example, there was a 3% decrease in job satisfaction and a 17% increase in job search activity when somebody had a change of manager or job responsibilities, which makes sense because there's a great deal of uncertainty. We got used to one manager, and now we have a new manager, and so people start exploring other opportunities when that tends to happen. The other 2 largest changes happened around major gatherings of friends and classmates, like somebody going to a college or high school reunion. So you as a manager, if you know this is happening, you may want to schedule a stay conversation for right afterwards. And then the other largest changes happen around birthdays and work anniversaries, because people tend to be questioning, hey, here's another milestone, and am I where I want to be right now? So as a leader, you may want to schedule that stay conversation for right before their birthday or right before their work anniversary to get them present to what they are developing and what you're going to do to be able to support them moving forward. Now let's go through the 4 components of running an effective stay conversation. 1, the invitation and setting the context. 2, starting the meeting off right. 3, digging in to understand their experience. And then 4, agreeing to next steps and follow up. Number one, the invitation and setting the context, which is probably the most important part of letting this person know that this is not a performance conversation, but you're committed to just understanding their experience. You may invite them by sharing something along the lines of, hey, I've really loved having you on our team, and as we start the next quarter or the next year, I'd love to devote our next one-on-one just to understanding your experience and what I can do to improve it. It's a good practice to give them 2 or 3 questions that they can reflect on so they can come to your meeting prepared. Here's a couple questions that you can choose from. How have you been feeling about work in general? What part of your job are you enjoying the most? What aspect of your job are you enjoying the least? How have you been feeling about being able to balance your work and home? What's been the biggest challenge this year, quarter, and is there anything I can do to better support you? What can I do differently to support you and the team? Is there anything you'd like feedback from me on? And do you feel like you're learning and growing here? And if not, is there anything I can do to improve your experience? Number 2, starting the meeting off right. Now, 1, you want to make sure that you have time to mentally transition into the conversation. So if you're running from one meeting to the next, make sure you take 2 to 3 minutes beforehand to just get present to who they are and why you're having this conversation. What is it they contribute to you, to the team, and most importantly, what would it be like if you lost this person on your team? And that will help you get present to why you're having the conversation. Then you want to make sure you put away any distractions. Turn off notifications on your phone or on your computer. Close your email if you're having a virtual meeting, and if you're in person, once they come into the room, make sure you close the office so you don't have anybody coming in that's going to interrupt you. Then, in order to start the conversation, restate the intention. Let them know this isn't a performance conversation and that you're solely here to understand their experience at work and what you can do to improve it. Number 3 is understanding their experience, and this is going to form the bulk of your conversation. Now, many people think that all the employee is going to share are their problems and their frustrations, but that's rarely the case. And usually what they start out by sharing is what's working for them. And so when they do, you want to first celebrate what they share, and then you want to reflect on it to better understand what is working for them. So for example, maybe an employee says, you know what, I really love working remotely. I feel like we're more efficient as a team. So you want to first celebrate it. You know, it's really great. I also feel more efficient when I'm working remotely. What is it about that that's working great for you? And then better understand their experience. Or another example may be, you know what, I've really loved working on the launch of this app. Okay, you know what, I've really loved having you work on that. And I thought you were really great at doing A, B, and C. What is it about working on that launch that's been so great for you? And then ask them questions to understand what is it about that, what are they learning, and what you can do in the future to give them more experiences that are similar to that. So what if an employee brings up a concern or a complaint? Well, what we don't want to do is explain it away. We don't go, well, it's only like this right now because of this, or it's going to get better in the future. Because if we do that, we shut down their sharing. And instead, what we want to do is we want to listen for the hidden commitment behind the complaint. Now, what do I mean by this? So let's say, for an example, that an employee says, I feel like I'm in meetings all day long. I never get to get my work done, and I'm working until midnight every single night at home just to get caught up on what I couldn't do during the day. So what we want to do first is we want to reframe the complaint. So I understand that you are in meetings all day and you never have time to get your actual work done, so you're doing it at night. And I understand that that doesn't work for you, and you're committed to getting your work done during work hours. So next, you want to reflect. So what I want to do is I want to understand what's been going on recently that's having that happen, and what are your ideas about how we could shift it, and let's have a discussion about it. Now, what if somebody brings up the subject of money or compensation? Say they say something along the lines of, I feel like I'm exhausted at the end of every day, I'm working nonstop, and I barely have money to pay my bills. Now, many people will want to avoid this conversation, say, hey, this is the powers that be, this is the big boss, I don't have control over salary. But you still want to listen for the commitment behind the complaint with a reframe. Hey, I understand that you feel like you're working nonstop, that you're exhausted every day, and that the money you're making, you're still struggling to pay your bills. So tell me, what's been going on for you right now, and what is it you feel like you need? Well, I need more money. And then here's where we want to keep on digging in to understand why. Hey, what's been going on for you recently? What's been happening at work? And many times, just by asking those questions, they're going to tell you what they need. Maybe it's they feel like they're working the job of 3 people because 3 people on the team are slacking. And by the way, that's your opportunity to start addressing the performance issues of others to be able to take care of one of your A players. And now if it's just around money, maybe it's something that's going on in their life. Like, hey, the transmission in my car broke last week. And although you may not be able to give them the money for the transmission, maybe you can give them the hours they need to be able to cover it. Or maybe you can give a cash advance, depending on your job or your field. but you can come up with unique solutions to be able to address it. And then one of the best ways to show people that we care for them more than just what we need for them is if they really need a position that makes more money, help showing them the path of how they can get there within your organization, or if they can't, help them find a path to be able to get in a job that's going to make them more money even outside of your organization. Because that employee leaves knowing that you care for them, guess what? They're going to send their friends to your organization, and when an opportunity does open up that may support them, they're going to come back. Number 4 is agreeing to next steps in follow-up. Now, in the last 10 minutes of your conversation, you want to shift the conversation into what you're going to do next to take action on what you discussed. Now, many times in this conversation, there may have been subjects you didn't have time to wrap up. So you may schedule a meeting for the following week or 2 weeks out to continue your conversation. Now, if there are things that you commit to, you want to make sure you put those on both of your calendars. Maybe you're going to set them up to connect with somebody in another department to learn from them, or to a training or a development program, or you're just going to help them develop a certain skill. And so if there's some sort of follow-up action, make sure you put it on both of your calendars to make sure that you take action on it. And this isn't just lip service, because employees are going to know if you're just saying this because you're supposed to, or you truly care to make a difference in their experience at work. Now, after the meeting, you also, as a manager, want to schedule your next stay conversation. Now, if they have a birthday coming up, or they're going to a high school reunion, or they're going to have a management change, you want to make sure you put the session around those events. But if not, you may just want to put it 3 to 6 months out to make sure you follow up with them, because a lot can change in that short period of time. Here's a quick summary of all the core components to have an effective stay conversation. 1, the invitation. Make sure you're saying the context and them understanding that this isn't a performance conversation, but you're just here to listen about what you can do to improve their experience at work. 2, starting the conversation right by removing any distractions and also resetting that intention. 3, understanding their experience at work. And this is the bulk of your stay conversation. And you're going to have a couple different parts to this. The first part is you're going to be celebrating what's working and then reflecting on what you can do to make sure there's more of that. And then the second part is going to be listening to the commitments behind any complaints of frustration. You're going to reframe those complaints, and then you're going to reflect on what you can do together to be able to address them. And then the last component, number 4, is agreeing on follow-up and next steps. While this may seem like extra work as a manager, in reality, it's going to save you time, because those 2 or 4 hours a year you invest to have stay conversations is going to give you the information you need to make sure that you're crafting an extraordinary experience that your people don't want to leave. Because if they do, you're going to spend all those hours and more just trying to replace them and onboarding that new person. So would you rather invest 4 hours to keep an extraordinary person on your team, or would you rather invest 60 to 70 hours to be able to hire, onboard, and train their replacement? You tell me. I'm Chris Littlefield from Beyond Thank You. If you have questions, please put them in the comments below. If you try it, let me know how it goes. And if you enjoyed this video and you're watching on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe and show at least one other person who you know it will make a difference for. And together, let's build cultures where people feel valued every day. Take care.